everybody. So today is Monday. That means it's time for family movie night. And I was really struggling to come up with what to talk about this week because I have reviewed a lot of the superhero movies that are like family friendly, I think. And I'm thinking about Endgame. And I was just trying to think of something that would be a good option for people whose kids aren't quite old enough to go to Endgame, don't feel like they're ready for such a long movie. Also has some pretty deep themes, some pretty strong violence as far as the action and the battle scenes and some of the other stuff that goes on. So some kids are just not going to be ready for that, and that's great. We want to make sure that we present films to kids when they're at an age when they can appreciate it. Otherwise, it's just a waste and we've missed an opportunity. So I decided to do something a little bit different this week for Family Movie Night. I'm actually, instead of just talking about one film, I'm talking about my top 10 films that if your child isn't ready for Endgame, that you can show them so they're not totally missing out on the experience of a superhero movie. Now, there are a couple that I really love that were borderline for me, but didn't quite make the cut as far as whether they're family friendly. I don't know. I was just kind of back and forth. I tried to be really pretty strict about this list as far as movies I think are safe for pretty young kids, I would say. But anyway, so a couple honorable mentions, I guess you could say that I have. I have the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. This does have some fairly strong violence and some children in peril. So it's probably for older kids, but it's pretty good. I like it. It has a good message to it, and the puppetry is of course incredible. And so it's borderline, but it's definitely worth checking out. And I did review it for Family Movie Night. Then I also have Power Rangers, the movie. I really enjoyed this, but more for the quiet moments that they had between the different Ranger teams. I thought was very well done, but it is pretty violent. Rita Repulsa is pretty brutal, and so it's definitely not for little ones for sure. Then I have Superman the movie. I almost put this on my list. I think the only reason it might be a little bit harder is because it is pretty long and requires maybe a little bit more attention than maybe little kids might have for their sort of palette. So that's the only reason not to get on, but I think that would be a good one. And I did review it for Family Movie Night. And then I have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse as an honorable mention. It does deal with some pretty deep themes and has some violent content, but it's just so dazzling and so lovely. And so it has such a great heart to it that I think it would be a good one to watch with kids that are ready for it. I think that all the Spider-Man movies, with the exception of Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2, for me at least, would be watchable. Amazing Spider-Man 2, has some pretty strong violence and sad themes and stuff that little kids might not be ready for, and it's not my favorite, but anyway, but I definitely would include Rise of the Guardians. So make this another, I guess, honorable mention. I love that movie from DreamWorks. It does get pretty scary for kids. The villain can be pretty scary. It just depends on your kid, but I do love the animation, and I love it's like the Avengers. It's a perfect choice for an Avengers alternative because it's basically like it's basically like the Avengers, the heroes of childhood, all team together to do some good with Santa Claus and Tooth Fairy and etc. So for these honorable mentions, I have My Hero Academia, the movie. I thought this was such a really fun movie from last year. They did a very good job of updating everybody in the very beginning about the show, so you felt like you knew what was going on. They did an extremely good job with that, and I thought that it was an interesting story. The kids with these quirks and these special abilities and this high school, and then sort of the mission that they get sent on. was compelling. And I thought, well done. It does have some violent moments, as why it's just honorable mention, but I think it's definitely worth checking out, and I think a lot of kids will like it. Okay, so now we're into the top 10. The first one I have is any of the DC superhero girls movies. I think would be great choices for this. You have all of your main heroes as teenagers. They're all going to the superhero high and having experiences and facing off with bad guys and learning and lessons about friendship and how to get along and what's worth fighting for and all that stuff. I've really enjoyed all of these movies. The animation is really good, I think, and it's cool for young girls to see all of these female superheroes and learning and growing and doing a great job. So I really like all of these DC superhero girls movies. Then at number 9, I have Teen Titans Go to the Movies. Some of the humor in this will go over kids' heads, but I think there's enough there that they will laugh and have a good time. And the animation's fun. I think that if you're looking for something more lighthearted, they'll really enjoy this Teen Titans Go to the Movies. Then at number 8, I have Megamind. This, of course, from the villain's perspective. You could also watch Despicable Me for people who are fans of that franchise. But I really like the portrayal of the superhero in this one because he kind of is sort of the villain, but kind of not. He's sort of conceited, and I think that's an interesting thing to talk about with kids, and it's funny, and I enjoy just Megamind as a character. I think it's really funny, so I think that this would be a good one. Then at number 7, I have Spy Kids. I think this whole franchise, but especially the first 2, do a really good job of empowering kids, putting them in a position where they are able to even save their parents. Everybody that they're smart, they're capable. I think the violence isn't too bad. It has been a little bit since I've seen this one, but the action is, I think, pretty palatable for kids. So this would be a good one, I think, to watch. Then I have, at number 6, I have the Lego Batman movie. This movie does have some jokes that are more for the adults, but not too bad. I think they will still laugh. I think most kids kind of know enough about sort of Batman's character, who Batman is, that they will understand kind of what they're joking about. And there's enough laughs and enough creative storytelling, and sort of the idea of Batman's sort of existential crisis is something I think you could talk about as a family, and sort of what we're all living for and what's the purpose of our lives. So there you go. Number 5, I have Captain Underpants, the movie. I thought this movie was so funny. I thought it was so sweet. The friendship between the 2 boys. It's a mixed race friendship, which is great. I think there's maybe a little bit of a lesson in as far as the villain who is just made fun of because of his name and what that kind of does, and we can talk about that. And I love the animation. I love the different mediums that are used within the animation, make it very inventive and creative. And so it's just a really good movie. Number 4 on my list, I have the Powerpuff Girls movie. This movie is really funny. It's very creative. The animation is great. And you get to learn about the origin of the girls, and also the importance of teamwork and supporting each other, and giving up being humble, I think is very important. And so it's really sweet. Number 3, I have Big Hero 6. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it had huge heart. I thought the relationship between the 2 brothers is very touching and very well done. I really love Baymax so much. He is such a great character. He's so lovable. He's so wonderful. Everybody wants one after the movie. And I think it's just a charming film. So then at number 2, I have Sky High. So this is your film about this high school it's like the live action version of DC Superhero Girls. And, but it's very creative, very funny. And I think it has sort of an interesting message about kind of what makes you special, what makes you unique. It's great. So my number one superhero movie for kids that aren't old enough to watch the Avengers Endgame is The Incredibles. The Incredibles does get a little bit scary at times with Syndrome. He can be pretty scary, but I think there's enough sort of humor worked in with his stuff that it works. Things like the capes and Mote is hilarious, and I really like the whole sort of message about work and why we work, and when you're doing something that's inauthentic and how it just eats away at your soul. And that's kind of the lesson that Bob learns. Also, just the message about family, about marriage is just the best. The animation's great. Of course, Incredibles 2 is also really strong, really entertaining, with also a nice message about family and loving each other, and just the stress and hard work of family. So there you go. That's my list of superhero movies that are great for kids who aren't old enough to watch Avengers Endgame. You know what you think, and if there's any I missed, put in the comments section or on Twitter. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And thanks so much. Please subscribe to my channel. I'll talk to you later. Bye.